Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cleaning and Restoring. We are back doing consoles. I have a couple consoles I want to do. I have this, I have the N64 I need to do. So I have a couple consoles I have to do. But we're going to be, in this episode, doing the SNES, or Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Before I say anything, let me state that you need a very special type of screwdriver for this, and it's relatively hard to get, and it's just the bit is actually part of the screwdriver. This is kind of like a makeshift version because I couldn't find a screwdriver that this bit fit into. But this is called a G-A-M-E bit screwdriver. I bought this off Amazon. I only actually bought this part. It comes with two different bits, however, this is the only one we'll be needing. This one's bigger than the other one. And I will tell you, they're not the cheapest things in the world. I watched other guys' videos who do this, and they say that they got theirs for like $4 or $5. Just for 2 bits, I had to pay $10, which I thought was a bit much, but I mean, I couldn't find them anywhere cheaper. And I bought this off Amazon, and if you're going to buy your own, let me just state that you should buy the one that says something like, used to take apart and Nintendo consoles, or something like that, because if it doesn't say that, it might not be what you need, so I would just take caution in purchasing something like this and do a little research. So, you will need to use this, and there are 6 gain screws on the bottom of the console. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And right before you take this out, you might as well just take this little expansion port out. It's just a little piece of plastic. You can wash it if you want to. And after you take out all 6 screws, I've already actually taken them out just because I wanted to see if the screwdriver would work properly, and it did. So after you take out all 6 screws, the 2 halves come apart, as every console does. And you take it apart, and here you got what you need. Now, before I say anything, let me say that these consoles are very infamous for having a lot of little parts they need to take out and blah 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 blah. It is kind of a pain, I know, but it happens. So here's the top half, and I'm just kind of looking at it right now. It's not too dirty, but right here there is a lot of dirt right here. And, ew, this is the most disgusting console I think I've ever opened. I'm not even being dramatic. Most of you are like, you're such a baby. There is a spider web in it. There is, bird shit in it. I don't even know what half this stuff is. So, this whole top half actually doesn't have any electronics in it. And if you want to take it apart, you can in more detail. I'm not sure how you take the buttons off. I think I see how you're supposed to do it. I need the screwdriver to actually... I'm just doing a little test right here because I don't know much about this. Yeah, I don't know what that is, actually. Oh, that's just like the spring mechanism to push the reset button back down after you press it up. So to take these buttons off, I'm not sure how you're supposed to do it. In all honesty, it looks like they just kind of pinch on. Or at least the power button pinches on. I can't see how the other one goes on. So you could actually unscrew these, and I think I'm going to. I might actually do this in parts, just for the sake of the fact that there's so many parts inside this console. So we're actually going to unscrew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Phillips screws. First we should actually set the screwdriver so it's made it's set to take out screws. And just as I figured was going to happen, I can't get these out. Let's try using a different bit first before I jump to conclusions, because these screws are really big and I'm using a tiny screwdriver. This video, I feel like it's going to be longer, because this is a learning process for me as well as you guys, because I have no clue what I'm doing in this episode. Okay, this screw works good, because I didn't want to have to get a separate screwdriver just for this. So I would be really religious about separating your screws, because you want to be careful that you don't lose any, and that you put them all in the right spot, because some of them could be different. Just take out all 5 of the screws. Again, we're taking off a piece of plastic right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Phillips screws that you need to take out. And these screws, if your console hasn't been taken apart, and it most likely hasn't, then you're gonna probably have a strong issue with these screws being crusted, basically down. It's gross, I know, but that's the term I would use for it. Now these screws all seem to be the same size, so you don't have to separate them by size. Alright, now the last screw is going to be a little bit more difficult because it's the last one. It's holding everything in place. So after you get those screws out, let's take this little cover off it, or I think we could take it off. There's definitely something holding it down. Oh, I see. This is all one piece. Okay, so we're also going to take out these two Phillips screws. Again, I'm sorry, I have no clue what I'm doing in this episode. It's just I've seen a tutorial a long time ago about how to take these things apart, but I never thought that I'd be taking one apart, so I never thought I'd actually have a game bit screwdriver, but I got one. So, let's take this thing apart. So now we'll try to take it off. It should be a little bit easier to get off. Now there is a spring right up here by the two buttons. I'm not sure. It looks like you just have to unhook it right here. Now there's a hook on. Yeah, okay. Whoa, did the spring fly? Okay, now this little spring you gotta be careful with because it came off both hooks, which I didn't want it to, but it did. So you gotta make sure you know how this spring goes back on, or else you're so screwed in the long run. So I'm gonna pile the screws with that piece that I just took out along with the spring. This piece that we took out right here can be washed. I'm gonna wash it because mine has a lot of feces in it, I guess. So the buttons can be taken off now. I'm almost positive, at least. I think what you're going to have to do is do this. Now, obviously, I know you can't see what I'm doing right now because I'm trying to... That sounded like I broke it off. Ooh, that's dirty. Okay, so I did get it off, and what you have to do is, it should look like this, and what you're going to have to do is... Well, this won't come off automatically. But what you're going to have to do is pinch these two together and then push on the button from the outside and you'll hear a little click. So that means that that set of little clamps came out, so now you have to pinch the other set of clamps and the button will come out like that. And then this little piece can just be pulled right off. Alright, so this is basically all we need to do. This little flap right here is kind of loose, but I'm just going to leave it like it is. This whole piece can be washed. You actually didn't have to take anything like that apart. I might actually put it back together before I take apart the bottom half. So this might be going in a weird order. This might not be take apart the whole console, put the entire console back together. This might just be like, do the top half first, then the bottom half second. That's actually how I am going to do it now that I made the executive decision. So I'm actually going to wash all these, and then I'll show you how to put them back together, I guess. So stick around for that. Okay, I washed the top parts. All I washed were the reset, and the power button. I didn't wash these two pieces because they're not actually really that dirty. I washed this because this was heavily dirty, and the top and the case, I guess is the term. So everything is still relatively wet. However, since everything is just plastic, I can put it back together and nothing's going to get damaged because I'm not putting any electronics in it. I'm going to wait for this thing to thoroughly dry because I still have to do, if I can pick it up, I still have to do this. I still have to do all this, clean all inside here, which if you can see, it is horrifying to look at. So I have to clean inside there, and that's going to be the next step in this video. This is probably going to be a longer video, actually. So before we put this back in, we go... Oh, I'm shaking because I just got like the chills really bad. Okay, so first you got to realize where the power and reset button go. So if you're looking at it like this, the power button, I'm holding it upside down, goes right here on this side. And the reset button goes on this side. And if you were confused, they actually did put little markings in here, like right here, it'll say PO. And right here, it'll say RE. I'm not sure if it's like that in everyone, because I didn't actually notice that till like right now. But those buttons are relatively easy. What you have to do is you have to take these pieces, put them back into place, make sure you put those on the right side, take the button, and make sure you're putting it in the right way, because I wasn't. It only fits in one way though. And they should both kind of snap together in such a way, if I could get up, yeah. You're going to have to be rough with them, because they're not made to get out easily. If you heard it snap into place, it was really loud actually. So make sure you're putting these in the right way. Again, it should only fit in one way. This square piece right here will fit in both ways. But what you want is the parts that are sticking up right here to be facing towards the thinner end of the console. And then we're going to do the same thing. Put it in, push down, and it should snap into place relatively nicely. But what's weird is actually one of the clips actually broke on here. one of the little clips. I mean, there's 4 clips, so it doesn't really matter, but I'm just kind of wondering how that happened, because I didn't wash that, like, heavily, obviously. Alright, so once you get those in, they should, like... Oh my god, that was horrible. That just totally slipped out of my hand. Didn't actually do any damage. Probably did more damage to the bar than I did to the console, because these things were made to last. So now the button should work. Obviously, it's not going to, like, spring load yet, because we didn't put the spring back in. But that's where I'm going to have to do a little bit of, like, research on my own, and just kind of looking at this, because upon examination, I have no clue where that spring went, or actually, I think I do see how it went. So the first thing you're going to do is probably take the spring and hook it around the hook right here on the reset button. And it's going to go through, I think through, yeah, it fits through. It's going to go through this hole on this piece and hook around here. So this is going to be a whole matter of issues. I'm probably going to have to, like, end up stabbing myself with the spring to get it to go on. So let's put this piece, I got it on the hook. It gets on this hook relatively easily. Put this piece down. And I'm going to try to feed it through as I drop the piece into place. This is not going to go well whatsoever for me. Figured that was going to happen. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of fiddling on my own with this, because the spring actually fell off of the bottom hook when I put this thing on. So let's try this again now. Drop it into place. Try to push the spring up through the hole. This is not easy work. If you already opened up your SNES, you got yourself into a bit of... Alright, I'm going to have to do this off camera because it's going to be hard. But if you already opened up your SNES, you're in a bit of a pickle now, because these things are hard to put back together. Like, extremely difficult. So, I'll be back after I get that into place and show you the screwing ports to get this piece back on. Alright, I got the spring in, and it turns out I was being a complete idiot about it. What you had to do was take this big piece right here. I'm not taking it out because I got the spring in and I don't want it to fall out again. Take the big piece and actually put it into place, and then the other hook will come through, and it's really easy to put the spring back on. It's right here, if you can see that. I was being stupid and thinking that you had to, like, put the spring... I don't know what I was thinking. But so now we're going to screw this big thing back together so first off that screw doesn't fly back out. So let's reset the screwdriver to make it so it's... Put screws in. And the first two we're going to do is down here. So let's just screw those in so this thing doesn't fly apart. Because what I did was, and I wish I got this on video because this was actually pretty funny, but it made me, like, almost crap myself. What I did was, I put this back together and I got the spring on, and I wanted to make sure the spring was working, so I turned it upside down, forgot that this wasn't screwed in, and everything just exploded out of it. I almost lost the spring. If I did lose the spring, I would have cried, because it's like, I can't find just a replacement SNES power or reset switch spring. Last time I searched that on Amazon, nothing came up, believe it or not. I'm joking, I didn't actually search that. Alright, so we got those 2 screws in, and now there's 5 more screws. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. And we're going to put those screws in. I would start at the middle, because that is usually one of the easiest ones to get in, because you don't have to have either of the 2 sides perfectly lined up. Once you put in the middle screw, it'll line up the 2 sides better, so it'll be easier to get them in. So let's screw these back together. Oh, that screw did not want to go in easily. I don't know how I got that out so easily. That was a tight screw. It's tight. Alright, so just keep putting in these screws. I know you guys hate when I videotape myself putting in screws, but I don't care. I honestly don't. You guys can cry about something all you want. I'm not going to change the way I do stuff just so you guys are happy. Why did that... Oh, the bit to my screwdriver actually came out with the screw. That confused me for a second. Alright, last 2 screws. This one does not want to go in because this hole is in an awkward spot. Put the screw in. And last one. Hooray. It's not really the last screw we'll ever deal with in this console though. It kind of sucks. Okay, so the bottom half of this console is extraordinarily dirty. Before I say anything else, let me just test to make sure that the spring works on the reset button. It does. So, also, if you want to get rid of the yellowing on your console, you can't just wash it off. It doesn't work like that. Basically what happens is there's a chemical put into the plastic called bromine. Or it's an element in the periodic table, actually, I'm almost positive. But basically what happens is bromine in the plastic, when it's hit by light, it starts to turn yellow over time. Now this has seen plenty of light over the years, I'm sure, that's why it's plenty yellow. And there is a way to reverse the process, and it's not just cleaning it off or painting over it. That won't stop it. It's basically eating away the plastic very slowly. That's why it's starting to chip on the two corners. There is a way to reverse it. I'm not going to make a video on it because it is a very difficult process. It has a lot of chemicals involved in it. So I'm going to put a link to this video on how to do it in the description below, and you can give that video a check out if you want to figure out how to do this. I will say it's not exactly the easiest thing to do though. So there's the top half, completely cleaned and done. I don't know what that is. There's like pizza sauce or something stuck to the bar. So we're going to put that aside, and I'll go put it on a towel later to let it dry completely. So now we have the bottom half. Now as you can see, there's a spider web in there. There's like a huge blotch of feces right there basically. There's all kind of crap going on. There's right down here by the two controller ports, there's this. The eject button's filthy right here because I couldn't clean that because I never took it apart before today. So the first thing you're going to want to do is take out the eject mechanism, which is this thing. And it's really easy. You just lift up on this side and pull it away. It doesn't work that easily to get off because the way it's designed. It's designed to be hard to get off, basically. And basically I didn't break it, but I took the spring out, so now it's just flaccid and just hangs there. So there is a little rod that holds it on. You're going to have to lift. I'm not sure how long this rod is or how far in it goes because I'm afraid I might bend the rod or break this plastic if I push or pull on it too much. Okay, I think I see what I have to do. You don't actually pull. You do pull the eject thing out of the rod. However, I can't get it past this cartridge slot. So I'm actually going to check out a video on how to get this. Let me just put the spring back into place here. Alright, I'm actually going to check out a video on how to do this because I am not sure. So I will be right back. Alright, I think I know what I'm doing now. I'm not actually going to take this down. I'm not going to remove all the electronic parts to wash the bottom because the bottom isn't too dirty. Isn't too dirty, I should say. So I already washed this little piece, so I can just put this back in. And so the inside of this is dirty. The dirtiest piece by far is definitely the eject thing. And I figured out how to get this out. So what you're going to do is first of all, you'll get it like this. This is how it should start out. You pick it up, and there's this little brass rod, and you're going to pull the brass rod out. And you get the eject mechanism, and you get this little spring. Now, putting this back together, not the easiest thing in the world. However, it is feasible. I'll show you how to do it. So, obviously, I'm just going to clean this. And, really, there's nothing else I want to clean. Everything else I could get off with, I guess, maybe... First of all, I'm going to blow around compressed air to get all the, main dust out, to get all the heavy dust off. Then I'm going to use Q-tips to try and get up here, down here, on here. That's disgusting. I, again, don't know what that is. But yeah, compressed air and Q-tips should get most of this out. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. I'm just going to worry about cleaning this eject thing off. The surface of the button itself is dirty, and I don't even know what that is. Honestly, I'm afraid to even take a guess at what it is. So I'm not going to show you, guys me cleaning the inside of this because I just showed you how I'm going to do it and what I'm going to do. Probably just going to use wet Q-tips and compressed air to get everything out, and then I'll just put it back together. So I'm going to clean this off, clean the inside of that, and then I'll be back to you guys with putting back together the console. One more thing I should say. I haven't cleaned this yet, but I cleaned the eject mechanism. It looks a lot better now. But you'll see it when I put it back together. If you want to clean around the controller ports, around here, but you're afraid that you might get water around here, something you can do is actually lift up on the controller ports, and they'll come out. And so you can they don't disconnect from the wires. This white wire cable thing behind it stays connected, and you can't disconnect that. So you're going to be careful, but if you pull this out, not only can you clean around here with like a Q-tip, but it's also, if you fold it back, it's a lot easier to get areas like under here now, where it's really like dirty. But be careful where you put this, because you also have this fragile light right here. That's the light that turns on whenever you turn on the console. You don't want that to not work, so you don't know if your console's working or not. So that's another little tip. So now I will be back with how to put the thing back together. After a lot of heavy cleaning, I finally got most of the stuff on the inside cleaned off. There's some dust left. Not really dust. There's some like dirt left that I'm not too concerned about. There's like a black mark right here that I tried my best to get off. Got most of it off, but I couldn't get all of it off. Most of it's clean. The eject button looks a lot better. There's actually still like a permanent, I think it's permanent stain from whatever was on here. I don't know what it was though. It's not sticky, so I don't think it was like soda or something. So putting it back together, the first step is obviously to put the controller ports back in if you took them out. And the next thing would be to put the eject mechanism in. Now this is actually hard, and you gotta be careful because if you already took it out, you better hope to God that you can figure out what I'm doing, because there's no easy way for me to tell you how to do this basically. So there's three parts to this. There's the eject, or there's four I guess. There's the bottom, there's the eject button, there's the big brass rod that holds it in place, and there's a little spring that has two ends to it. Now, there is one end of the spring that sticks off that has a hook. Both ends stick off and have hooks. One is shorter, one is longer. I'm almost positive the longer one has to go downward into the console. So that's how I'm going to remember it. And also, they both come off on the same side, and that side should be facing the back of the console towards like this big box. So here's what you have to do. First, take the rod and the eject bar, or the eject mechanism, and put them through each other so that you have it set up. Then put the spring in so that it's in the right way, and it should look something like this, if you can see that or not. Drop it into place. The spring will fall out, but it's gonna you're gonna have to expect that to happen. First thing you're gonna do is push the spring. The first thing you want is you don't want the spring to be connected to the eject mechanism. You want it to be all loose on this side. But if it is loose and not connected, then it's a lot easier to put the bottom spring in to where it has to go in. If I can't actually get the spring detached from the eject thing. Alright, so once you get it in the bottom, this is the hardest part of putting the whole thing back together. You can actually slide this off. You can actually lift up on the eject mechanism and pull it out a bit so it's easier to line up the spring on the bottom half. Make sure it lines up, and there's a little hole that it'll go into. You'll feel it get locked in, and you'll be so happy when you get that feeling. Line it up in the top, and the eject mechanism is finally back into place and working. I think that's a poor design, but obviously most consoles weren't designed to be easy to put back together because they weren't made to take apart. They were made to use until they die. Because then you can go out and buy another one once it dies. That's how they made money. So, after you got this all put back together, there's nothing else you really have to do besides put the two halves back together. Now this has dried intensely long. It's been a long time that this has been drying. It doesn't look that much cleaner. I've already actually cleaned the top of this before when I first got it, and I didn't take it apart though. I'm going to drop this into place carefully, make sure that nothing comes into contact with anything else and that everything is working right. Not everything is working, but make sure that it fits together. If it doesn't fit together and you try to screw it, you could end up breaking the entire console, which is a bad idea. Same thing goes with screws, with controllers too. The last thing you're going to want to do is put back in those last 6 game bit screws. Again, these are the only ones in the entire console that are like this, just because they wanted to make it as hard as possible for people like this guy to take them apart. However, I spent $10 on a special screwdriver just for the occasion of taking this and an N64 apart. I can also take apart things like small cartridges, like Game Boy cartridges, NES cartridges, and Game Boy cartridges, NES cartridges, SNES cartridges, N64 cartridges, Sega Genesis cartridges even, for some reason. Alright, this one's not going in very easily. Sometimes these screws are hard to get in. Especially the older the console. I mean, it's been together for how long? Taking it apart and then trying to put it back together, it's not... Consoles aren't used to that because they're used to staying in one piece. Alright, 3 more screws. I'm actually really happy this... I heard a noise. I'm actually happy this went as well as it did, because I wasn't sure. I know that these things are a pain to do. I know that these things are a really hard task to take on. I didn't take it apart as much as I could have, but there wasn't really much else that you had to do, honestly. I mean, taking off all those electronics in the bottom half wasn't necessary unless the bottom of your console was filthy, which mine really isn't. There's a few marks on it that I can live with because it's going to be on the bottom. I can live. Again, if you're like me and you really don't like the yellowing on your console, check out the video on how to get rid of that. There's a link in the description below. I will tell you, it's not the cheapest thing in the world to get rid of, but it's for people who really want to keep these things in working order. Painting over it, I already said this, but painting over it won't work. Cleaning it won't work. They may make the yellowing look like it's going away, but it's still there, because what's happening is it's actually rotting away the plastic very slowly. But slowly but surely. Alright, so the console is back together, all in one piece. I'm happy. It looks like it works fine. It's a lot cleaner where the cartridge went into the game, so I'm happy about that. Power button does lock up and down, so that's good. The reset does spring back down after you push it up. So those are the 2 things you want to test, is if these do what they're supposed to. So I'm really proud of that. Hopefully it still works. I'm going to go test it right now to make sure it still works, but it should. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't, honestly. So if you like this video or you found it helpful, please leave a like or a subscribe to help me out. And check out the video in the link in the description below. Thank you again.